warm enough for you? Or have you started feeling the heat of the season? Can you keep yourself warm even in hot or even in cold conditions? Learn the technique of keeping yourself warm in both extremes. Welcome once again to News Analysis. News Analysis, a weekly magazine on current affairs. To begin with, the main points in a nutshell. PASOK's Venizelos in third bid for Greece coalition. Striking public sector workers walk out over pension. Syria unrest, Damascus suicide blast kills dozens. Indonesia searchers find bodies of Russia jet wreckage. Facebook App Store launches amid mobile revenue worries. ICRC suspends operations in Peshawar and Karachi. Now the news in detail. PASOK's Venizelos in third bid for Greece coalition. PASOK leader Evangelos Venizelos has been asked to make a third attempt to form a coalition government in Greece amid turmoil after Sunday's elections. Mr. Venizelos was given the mandate to start new talks after failed bids by leaders of the center-right New Democracy and radical left Syriza bloc. PASOK is widely associated with deeply unpopular austerity cutbacks. Sunday's elections reveal a country divided over plans to bring it out of its debt crisis. Financial chaos has sparkled huge social unrest in Greece and led to a deep mistrust of the once dominant parties which backed austerity. Under the bailout agreement, Athens is due to pass new austerity measures worth 14.5 billion euros. That means $18.8 billion. Next month, part of cuts required to qualify for bailouts worth a total of 240 billion euros. Efforts must continue after the first two parties failed to find a coalition partners. Former Finance Minister Mr. Venizelos will now meet President Carlos Papoulias to receive the mandate to try to form a government. It was clear that the current stage of this process we cannot reach a solution, but that we must continue this effort, Mr. Venizelos said according to AP News Agency. So the mandate I will receive tomorrow will have substance and importance. But PASOK is now deeply unpopular, says the BBC's Mark Levin in Athens, seen as an architect of austerity and tainted with allegations of corruption. It dominated Greek politics for most of the past 4 decades, but so its support slashed on Sunday, coming a third with just 41 seats, a quarter of its pre-bailout support. Its attempt to form a government also appears likely to fail, our correspondent says, making fresh elections and weeks of fresh instability across the Eurozone seem inevitable. The Eurozone's Rescue Fund on Wednesday decided to withhold 1 billion euros of its latest installments of its bailout to Greece pending a meeting of Eurozone finance ministers on Monday. But the fund said it would disburse 4.2 billion euros of the 5.2 billion euros due to the country on Thursday. Striking public sector workers walk out over pension. Hundreds of thousands of public sector workers are taking part in a 24-hour UK-wide strike in a dispute with the government over pension changes. The government says current pension schemes are unfair and unaffordable because people are living longer. But the unions say members are being robbed and will have to pay more and work longer for lower pensions. Meanwhile, walkouts by prison service staff in England, Wales and Scotland have now ended. Among the public sector workers taking part in the 24-hour strike are civil servants, NHS workers, including paramedics, border force staff and lecturers. Around 32,000 police officers are taking part in a protest march against cuts. according to Metropolitan Police estimates. Union leaders say up to 4 lakh workers are on strike, while government says some 1 lakh are taking part. Mark Servoka, General Secretary of the PCS Union, which estimates that an overwhelming majority of its 250,000 public sector members are on strike, told BBC Radio 5 Live the cost of pension was falling as a proportion of GDP. "We pay more and not a penny goes into anybody's pension fund," he said. "In every major public sector scheme, health, education and the civil service, the majority of trade unions have refused to accept these cuts in their pensions." He added, "We are going to have the highest pension age of any Western European country. The government plans to raise the retirement age in line with the state pension age, eventually to rise to 68. But Conservative Party Chairman Lady Warsi told reporters that workers were being asked to work a little bit longer and to pay a bit more, but they will be guaranteed a pension which is index-linked and inflation-proof. Syria unrest, Damascus suicide blast killed dozens. Twin suicide car bomb attacks have killed at least 55 people and wounded 372 in Damascus, Syrian officials say. The blast happened near a military intelligence building. During morning rush hour, state TV showed burned cars and 2 deep craters in the road. The government and opposition blamed each other for the attack, the deadliest in Damascus since the start of Syria's uprising 14 months ago. The two sides are supposed to observe a ceasefire monitored by a UN team. However, the violence has continued unabated across the country, with the restive city of Homs shelled again overnight. The international peace envoy on Syria, Kofi Annan, said the Damascus blasts were abhorrent and counterproductive for all parties. Central Damascus is under the firm control of government forces, but the city has been hit by several bombings in recent months, often targeting security buildings or military convoys. Thursday's attacks occurred in the southern suburb of Al-Quwas shortly before 8 in the morning. That means 05 hours GMT, as people were going to work. The Interior Ministry said the terrorist blasts were caused by 2 cars loaded with more than 1,000 kilograms of explosives and driven by suicide bombers. Indonesia searchers find bodies at Rusia jet wreckage. Rescuers at wreckage of Russian Sukhoi Superjet plane that crashed into mountains in Indonesia on Wednesday say they have found no sign of survivors. The Sukhoi Superjet 100 vanished from radar screens 15 minutes after taking off from Jakarta for a brief demonstration flight. On Thursday, a helicopter found debris on the side of a cliff near a Darman volcano. The spokesman for the rescue effort said a number of bodies had been found. "So far, we have found any survivors, but we are still searching," Gaga Prakoso said. About 45 people are said to have been on board the aircraft. It crashed into Mount Selak around 1.5 kilometers. That's around 1 mile from the spot where the plane last made contact. Indonesian President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono said on television earlier in the day. An investigation must be carried out immediately and thoroughly. Search and rescue operations must prioritize finding any survivors. 8 Russian pilots and technicians, Indonesian airline representatives and journalists were among those said to be on board the plane. Earlier reports had said 50 people were on board, but Indonesian agents on the Russian-made plane told reporters this figure had been revised down because some people got off before takeoff. Sales store aerial searches for the plane on Wednesday were hampered by darkness and strong winds. Fog early on Thursday also delayed search efforts. The plane took off from the East Jakarta's Halim Perdana Kusuma Airport on 14 hours on Wednesday. on its second flight of the day. At 1450, it was recorded as dropping from 10,000 feet, 3,000 meters to 6,000 feet near Salak, a peak measuring 7,200 feet. Juanda, a villager said who lives near the mountain, told local TV, "I saw big plane passing just over my house."